Have you ever looked at your paycheck and thought, I make decent money, so why does it still feel like I'm barely staying afloat? Like, you're not reckless. You're not buying yachts or flying private. But somehow, every month feels tight anyway. Maybe you tell yourself, once I make a little more, this will finally get easier. Or maybe you wonder if everyone else has some secret you missed. Picture this. Your paycheck hits, you feel a moment of relief, and then rent, groceries, gas, subscriptions, credit cards. Gone. Just like that. And you're left thinking, is this really what normal looks like? Because here's the uncomfortable question most people never ask. What if the average person is actually doing way worse than you think? In this video, I'm going to walk you through some shocking money statistics about the average American, and I promise, by the end, a lot of things about your own finances are going to click into place. Alright, so if that feeling I just described sounded a little too familiar, you're not alone. Hey, I'm Brian, and I spend way too much time thinking about how money actually works in real life. Not the Instagram version. Not the just manifest it version. The real, boring, numbers on paper version that decides whether life feels stressful or calm. And real quick, if videos like this help you make better money decisions, or even just make you feel less crazy, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel, and it tells me to make more of this kind of content. Now let me ask you something. When you hear the phrase, the average American, what do you picture? Do you imagine someone barely scraping by, or someone who's doing mostly okay, just not rich? Because here's the thing, averages matter. In fitness, you check your weight, your blood pressure, your step count. In school, you look at grades. In health, you track numbers because numbers tell the truth, even when the truth is uncomfortable. Money works the same way. If you don't know what normal actually looks like, it's really easy to aim for it without realizing normal might be the problem. Alright, so now that we've set the baseline, let's start with income. According to U.S. labor data, the median weekly earnings for the average American worker are just over $1,000 a week. That sounds okay, right? Multiply that out, and you're looking at roughly $52,000 a year before taxes. Now pause there for a second. That's before federal taxes, before state taxes, before Social Security, Medicare, health insurance, all of it. Realistically, that's maybe $3,200 to $3,500 a month hitting your bank account, depending on where you live. Okay, hold that number. Now let's talk spending. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average household spends about $5,577 every single month. That's over $67,000 a year. Here's the kicker. The average household is spending more money than the median worker even earns. Before taxes. Let me say that again, because this is one of those numbers that doesn't feel real at first. The math doesn't work. On paper, it literally doesn't add up. And honestly, think about how that gap gets filled. It's not magic. It's debt. It's credit cards. It's buy now, pay later. It's, I'll figure it out later. And later just keeps showing up every month. So when people say, I make decent money, but I'm still struggling, yeah, this is why. Now let's shift gears and look at where that money actually goes, because this is where things get really uncomfortable. The average household spends about $1,885 a month on housing, rent, or mortgage. That's the big one. For a lot of people, that's already 40% or more of their take-home pay. Then there's food. Groceries and eating out combined come out to about $691 a month. And yeah, you can say, well, food prices are crazy right now. That's true, but the number is still the number. Next is transportation. Car payments, gas, insurance, maintenance, about $913 a month. So let's just add those three together. Housing, food, transportation. That's roughly $3,500 a month. And here's the thing, that's before utilities, before phones, before internet, before subscriptions, before childcare, before healthcare, before debt payments, before saving anything. So when someone says, I don't know where my money goes, the answer is actually pretty clear. It goes to staying functional, not thriving, not getting ahead, just staying in the game. And the scary part? These aren't luxury categories. These are fixed costs. These are the expenses you can't just cut without major life changes. So if you've ever felt stuck, like you're running but not moving, this is why the average person feels trapped. So after housing, food, transportation, you'd hope there's money left over to actually build a future. This is where retirement savings come in. And, this is where things get really uncomfortable. According to data from the Federal Reserve, the median retirement savings for Americans of all ages is about $65,000. Median, by the way, just means half of people have less than that. Half have more. Now here's the kicker. About 25% of Americans have zero retirement savings. Not low, not behind, literally zero. Let me break this down by age, because context matters. If you're under 25, the median retirement balance is less than $2,000. Ages 25 to 34, about $14,000. Even by retirement age, 65 and up, the median is only around $88,000. Now let's do a really simple, very real calculation. There's something called the 4% rule, which is basically a guideline for how much you can safely withdraw from retirement savings each year without running out of money. 4% of $88,000 is about $3,500 a year. That's roughly $300 a month. $300 per month. That's it. Think about that for a second. Could you pay rent with that? Groceries? Utilities? Healthcare? Because that's what the average retirement savings actually produces. And this is why so many people say, I'll just work longer. Which brings its own problems. Health, energy, job availability, life. The reality is, the average retirement plan isn't really a plan. It's a hope. Now let's talk about debt, specifically credit cards, because this is where a lot of people think they're doing fine. The average credit score in the US is around 715, which is considered good. So on paper, it looks like most people are responsible, right? But here's the catch. The average household carries over $9,000 in credit card debt. And interest rates? They're not gentle. Most cards are charging 15 to 25%, sometimes even more. Let's do the math. If you owe $9,000 at, say, 20% interest, you're paying about $1,800 a year just in interest. That's $150 a month. Gone, before you even touch the balance. So yeah, your credit score might look good, but the reality is, you're paying real money just for the privilege of staying afloat. This is the gap between what people say and what they do. People say, I'm doing okay, but the numbers say, I'm borrowing from my future. And honestly, the system makes this feel normal. Minimum payments, reward points, monthly statements that don't look scary unless you really stare at them. But interest doesn't care how normal it feels. It just compounds. And when you combine debt payments with everything we talked about earlier, housing, food, transportation, suddenly it makes sense why saving feels impossible. Because for the average person, the margin just isn't there. So when you stack income, spending, debt, and savings together, the next logical question is, what does all of this actually turn into over time? That's where net worth comes in. Net worth is just what you own minus what you owe. Assets minus liabilities. Simple concept. Brutal reality. According to Federal Reserve data, here's the median net worth by age. If you're under 35, the median net worth is less than $14,000. Ages 35 to 44, about $91,000. 45 to 54, roughly $168,000. 55 to 64, around $212,000. And even at 65 to 74, the median net worth is only about $266,000. Now, I want you to really sit with that for a second. That number isn't cash in the bank. It often includes home equity. It includes retirement accounts you can't easily touch. It's not money you're casually spending. So after 40 years of working, the average person's total financial cushion is about $250,000. Here's the thing, this climb is slow, painfully slow. And remember what we talked about earlier. Most of that growth doesn't happen because people suddenly get amazing with money. It happens because time passes. Time, appreciation, inflation, forced payments on a mortgage. Which means if your habits are off, If spending keeps outpacing income, if debt keeps compounding, time alone doesn't save you. It just makes the mistakes bigger. Now let's talk about how people expect all of this to end, because this is where the final safety net comes in. The average American saves about 6% of their after-tax income. 6%. On a $50,000 income, that's roughly $3,000 a year, about $250 a month. And that's in good years, when nothing breaks, no emergencies pop up, no surprises. The average retirement age in the US is about 61, which means most people stop working earlier than they planned, not because they're ready, but because life decides for them. So what fills the gap? Social Security. The average Social Security benefit is about $1,550 a month, or roughly $18,600 a year. And here's the reality check. Social Security was never designed to replace your income. It was designed to supplement it. Trying to retire on Social Security alone is like trying to pass a class by showing up once a week and never studying. Technically, you're participating, but the outcome isn't going to be great. So when you combine a 6% savings rate, modest retirement balances, ongoing debt, and a Social Security check that barely covers basic expenses, you start to see the full picture. This is the end game of average, not disaster, not luxury, just barely enough. So let's step back and look at the pattern here, because none of these numbers exist in isolation. Income barely covers expenses. Expenses are locked into fixed costs. Debt fills the gap. Savings stay low. Retirement becomes a question mark. This isn't about a few bad decisions. It's a system that quietly produces average outcomes, and then tells people to feel like failures when those outcomes aren't enough. And honestly, this is the most important realization in the entire video. If you follow the average path, you don't end up fine. You end up stretched, dependent, vulnerable to one emergency, one layoff, one health issue changing everything. The average plan used to work. Today, it doesn't, and the numbers prove it. Now here's the good news, and this part matters. Knowing these numbers puts you ahead of most people already. Because once you see the averages clearly, you realize something powerful. You don't need to be extraordinary to beat them. You just need to be intentional. If the average person saves 6%, saving 10% already changes your trajectory. If the average household carries credit card debt, being debt-free is a massive advantage. If most people never invest consistently, doing it automatically, month after month, puts time on your side. And if you're behind right now, don't panic. These stats aren't a judgment. They're a starting point. Awareness comes before progress. If you're ahead, don't get complacent. Average catches up quietly. You deserve better than scraping by on normal. You deserve options, margin, breathing room. The averages show you where most people end up. What you do with that information, that part is up to you. Because average is common, but it's not mandatory.